So I know what you're thinking. Another video. Didn't I start the day doing one? Yes, because I watch too many movies, and some days I watch far too many movies. Today was one of those days. I just did a double feature of Brontë sister biopics that, unfortunately, I didn't particularly care for either of the films, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that both films were written and directed by men, and they felt like what men would think was interesting about the Brontë sisters. And they're both very of their times and of their places. So the first film was Devotion from 1946. I watched this on TCM. It's from Curtis Bernhardt. And in it you have the Brontes played by Ida Lupino as Emily, Olivia de Havilland as Charlotte, and Nancy Coleman as Anne. You also have Arthur Kennedy as Branwell, their brother. So in the very opening shot, it says that there lived four siblings, and that three sisters and a brother, and that two of them were geniuses. And I'm like, okay, we can shit on Branwell, that's fine, but like, a little respect for Anne. Come on. So, I mean, all three of them had these novels. So, like, poor Anne. That said, I haven't read Anne's novels, so I'm also terrible. It also had Dame Mae Whitty in it, who's always fantastic, and Paul Henri as the dude that both the women love, because that's what everything is about, and I'm just like, ugh. So, basically, it feels like a 1940s biopic in that everything feels slightly made up. Although, some of the touchstones are really from their lives, but there's too much focus on Branwell and not enough, and he's like almost too mean. Like you don't feel any of their family doesn't feel real to me, and it's Hollywood, so it feels very Hollywoodized. And the girls are very Hollywood pretty, and there's just, I don't know, it's just a mess. And the thing with them all being in love with the same guy was just like, ugh. Although Charlotte did eventually marry this guy, so, who knows, whatever. This is a very rambling review. It's middle of the night. I just didn't particularly care for it. And Ida Lupino was good. Ida Lupino was always good. I wish they gave Anne more to do. They also, don't even show that Anne dies later. Like, Emily dies, and you're like, oh, let's not even talk about it. So, Branwell dies. A few months later, Emily dies. And a few months later, Anne dies, and they don't even talk about that. Like, Anne's just a footnote in this movie. So then the next one I watched was on Filmstruck, and this is André Clécines. I'm going to say that totally wrong. Les Sœurs Brontë, also known as the Brontë Sisters. And in this one, you've got Isabelle Adjani as Emily, Marie-France Pisier as Charlotte, and Isabelle Huppert as Anne, and Pascal Gregory as Branwell. And you actually get a little bit more. One, you really see them working as governesses instead of just talking about it. Two, Anne actually gets a fair square, that's really about the three of them, but there's still too much Branwell. Four, it was in French, so it was weird seeing. For me, I found it strange seeing very British people presented in a very French biopic way. It felt like a very French film, and specifically like a very 70s French film, which surprises from 1979, so of course it did. They felt almost too broody. Like, yes, I expect the Brontes to be a little broody. They're from the moors, and they write these broody novels and everything. But it was like the broodiness turned up to 11 because it's like French existentialism meets like these broody British women from the moors, and I got bored. I'm yawning because I need to go to bed. I will say it was sort of strange. The end of this had Roland Barthes as Thackeray, In the other version, it was Sydney Greenstreet, which was also a little strange. I don't know. I just felt like it didn't. Both of them didn't feel like I learned about them as writers. I kind of learned about them as people, or you saw them as people, but you didn't really see them as writers. And I know you can't like see people sitting and writing, and like experience is writing. I get that. I still want to see like what it is about their experiences that drove them to be writers, and that's not what either of these films were, and so that was kind of unfortunate. I also didn't feel like you got enough in either of them, and especially the 40s one, but in either of them, of their feelings as women at this time who had ambitions. You get a little of it in the 70s one, especially with Isabelle Adjani, like running around in pants in the moors, but like would have liked a little more. I would like to see like someone take Elizabeth Gaskell's biography of Bronte, of Charlotte, and like turn that into a film. Apparently there was a made-for-TV biopic of the three of them by a woman from a few years ago that several people pointed out on Twitter, so I'm going to have to try to track that down for more Brontes. But these were the Brontes. I would much rather just watch 8,000 versions of Jane Eyre than these films, really. Wow, this film was originally 3 hours long. Wow. Okay, so Devotion was on TCM. I think it's available from Warner Archive. The Brontë Sisters is on Filmstruck. If you're curious, you can check them out. I'm going to go to sleep now. I watched too many movies, and I just want to watch Maurice again. So, good night.